Anxiety is one of those experiences that can slowly break a person from within, yet leave no visible scars on the outside. It doesn't make noise the way physical pain does, but it echoes constantly inside the mind. You sit still and everything seems fine, yet suddenly your heart starts racing, your thoughts multiply and spiral in every direction, and you catch yourself wondering, why? What's wrong with me? And when no answer comes, the uneasiness grows. This is why anxiety feels dangerous, it steals control without asking, and it starts ruling your life in silence. Moments of anxiety feel like time has stopped. Every second carries a weight, and that weight feels almost unbearable. It doesn't just drain your energy, it eats away at your confidence, your clarity, and your peace. You try to convince yourself that it's just a feeling, that it will pass, but the more you try to push it away, the stronger it seems to return. The loop feels endless, and you begin to believe you're trapped in it forever. People on the outside often say, just let it go, but those words are hollow to the one who lives inside the storm. You know that letting go is not easy, because anxiety wakes you up in the morning whispering worries about the future, reminding you of regrets from the past, and dragging you away from the present moment. It convinces you that you must carry the weight of yesterday and tomorrow at the same time, and the present slips away unnoticed. The most painful part is the loneliness it creates. You can sit in a crowded room, surrounded by laughter, yet still feel completely alone, because no one can hear the sound of your racing heart or the chaos of your mind. But here is a truth worth remembering. Anxiety does not mean you are weak. It means your mind and body are trying to send you a signal. They are urging you to slow down, to pause, to look within, and to acknowledge what part of you needs healing. That signal is not there to break you. It is there to wake you up. Every person, in some form, faces anxiety in their life. For some, it comes from pressure in their career. For others, from fear of losing someone, or from confusion about who they really are. The details may differ, but the foundation is the same, a constant tug of war between the inner reality and the outer mask you try to wear for the world. Anxiety settles in that space between what you feel and what you show. It tries to convince you that something is permanently broken inside you, that you'll never return to normal, that you'll always be trapped in this cycle. But this is the lie. The truth is that nothing is permanently broken in you. You are not a ruined story, you are simply moving through a difficult chapter. Nights always feel long, but they are never endless. Anxiety feels like a permanent sentence, but it is only a temporary pause. It is a chapter, not the entire book. When anxiety strikes, the body reacts, the palms sweat, the breath shortens, the heart pounds faster. This feels terrifying, but instead of seeing it as an enemy, you can see it as a system that is trying to protect you. It is your body's way of sounding an alarm, warning you, keeping you alert. The moment you learn to reinterpret those signals to tell your heart, I am safe right now, you begin to take back power from the panic. The very first step to overcoming anxiety is to stop treating it as the enemy. Fighting it directly only feeds its strength. The harder you push it away, the tighter it holds on. But the moment you acknowledge it, see it as a messenger, a teacher, its grip begins to loosen. You can tell it, I see you, I feel you, but you are not greater than me. And slowly, your subconscious begins to believe those words. Every time you feel anxious and yet continue living, showing up to work, speaking to someone, taking one small step forward, you are proving to yourself that you are stronger than the feeling. You may not recognize your own strength in those moments, but survival itself is proof of it. Anxiety often convinces you that you are the storm, but you are not the storm. You are the sky holding the storm. The storm will pass, but the sky will remain. That deeper self within you is untouched, unshaken, and unbroken, no matter how heavy the clouds of thought may feel. When you start to focus on this truth, even for a moment, anxiety begins to lose its power. The journey is not about eliminating anxiety forever, because it may return in waves, in whispers, in unexpected moments. But each time it returns, you have a choice. You can either surrender control to it, or you can remind it that its place is temporary. Each conscious breath, each moment of gratitude, each reminder that you are still here and still fighting, all of these weaken its grip. And this is how you win. Not by never feeling anxiety again, but by refusing to let it define who you are. Anxiety is not your identity. It is not your entire life. It is only one part of your journey, one lesson on the path of your becoming. And the very fact that you are still standing, still breathing, still listening, that is proof enough that you are already stronger than anything trying to overcome you. And yet, even with this strength living inside you, anxiety has a way of whispering doubts in your ear. It tells you that you are not enough, that you will fail again, that you cannot trust the ground beneath your feet. These whispers are subtle but powerful. They creep in when you least expect them, when you are lying in bed trying to rest, when you are about to start something new, or even when you're smiling in front of others. That's when you realize that anxiety doesn't only live in your body. It lives in your thoughts, shaping the way you see yourself and the world. It can turn ordinary situations into overwhelming battles. A simple conversation feels like an interrogation. A simple task feels like a mountain. A simple silence feels like rejection. It's as though your mind magnifies every small uncertainty and projects it onto a giant screen. And once it's on that screen, it feels inescapable. You begin to doubt not only your choices, but your very ability to cope. This is where anxiety shows its real nature, not as a single attack, but as a slow erosion of self-belief. But here's something important. Just because your mind paints a picture does not mean it is the truth. Thoughts are not facts. They are impressions, interpretations, and sometimes even distortions shaped by fear. Anxiety thrives when you mistake these distortions for reality. It convinces you that because you feel unsafe, you are unsafe. It convinces you that because you feel unworthy, you are unworthy. Yet, the deeper truth is that feelings are temporary messengers, not permanent verdicts. And the sooner you begin to recognize this separation, the sooner you begin to reclaim your freedom. When you notice the voice of anxiety speaking, you don't have to obey it. You can observe it without becoming it. You can say to yourself, "This is a thought. This is not me." By practicing this awareness, you start to build a gap, a small but powerful space between who you are and what you feel. And in that space, your power grows. Of course, the challenge is that this awareness takes practice. It doesn't come after one attempt, and it doesn't arrive in one night. It is cultivated slowly through patience, through gentleness, through the decision to try again, even when yesterday was difficult. Think of it like strengthening a muscle. The first time you lift the weight, it feels impossible. The second time, it still feels heavy. But with repetition, with consistency, your strength increases. The weight doesn't change, but your ability to carry it does. And this is how anxiety begins to lose its hold, not by disappearing, but by teaching you how strong you have always been. Every time you recognize a thought and refuse to bow to it, you grow. Every time you breathe through the racing heartbeat and remind yourself that you are safe, you grow. Every time you choose to show up, even with trembling hands, you grow. Growth doesn't mean the fear is gone. It means you've learned how to walk forward despite it. This is why self-compassion is so important in the journey. Anxiety often convinces you to be harsh with yourself. It makes you believe you're failing for feeling this way. But in reality, judging yourself only adds another layer of pressure. What you need in those moments is not more criticism, but more kindness. Speaking gently to yourself is not weakness, it is medicine. Telling yourself, "I am allowed to feel this and still move forward," is an act of courage. Allowing yourself to rest instead of pushing harder is an act of wisdom. These small acts of compassion create safety inside you, and safety is the soil where healing begins to grow. It is also important to recognize that anxiety does not define your entire story. It may be part of your current chapter, but it is not the title of your book. When you look back, you'll see that you've endured difficult times before. You've faced moments where you thought you wouldn't survive, yet you did. Anxiety wants you to forget your victories and focus only on your fears. But the truth is, your past victories are proof that you can handle whatever comes next. So instead of asking, when will anxiety go away? Ask yourself, how can I meet this moment with courage? Because the truth is, anxiety may return. It may knock on your door again tomorrow, or next week, or next year. But every time it does, you'll have the memory of your own resilience to meet it with. You'll know that while it can knock, it cannot take over without your permission. And that realization is liberating. It means that no matter how loud anxiety becomes, you still have the final word. You can choose to breathe, to pause, to shift your focus, to speak kindly to yourself, to remind yourself that you are more than your fear. This choice may feel small in the moment, but it carries enormous power. Over time, these small choices create a foundation of strength so unshakable that anxiety no longer rules you. So the next time you feel it rising, remember this. The feelings may be loud, but they are not permanent. The thoughts may be convincing, but they are not absolute truth. You are not broken. You are learning, adapting, and becoming stronger with every step. You are not defined by your anxiety. You are defined by the way you keep standing, the way you keep choosing to live, the way you keep refusing to give up. And that in itself is victory. Yet even as you taste this victory, a deeper truth begins to emerge. Strength is not the absence of anxiety, but the discovery of who you are in the middle of it. Real strength is not measured by how perfectly calm you appear on the outside, but by how steadily you choose to keep moving forward on the inside, even when the waves of fear push against you. Think of the countless times you thought you would break, yet somehow you didn't. You may not have noticed it, but in every one of those moments, a kind of resilience was building quietly within you. Anxiety tries to convince you that every tremble is weakness, but in reality, every tremble you survived became a layer of strength. The fact that you are still here, still trying, still listening to words of encouragement is evidence that something inside you refuses to give up. That refusal is power. Strength also reveals itself in the smallest choices you make. Waking up when all you want is to hide under the covers, that is strength. Sending a message to a friend, even though you fear they won't understand, that is strength. Taking one step outside when your whole body screams to stay inside, that is strength. These choices may look invisible to others, but they are victories that matter deeply to you. They are reminders that your courage is alive, even when anxiety tells you it isn't. Another sign of strength lies in your ability to adapt. Anxiety often convinces you that you must control everything, but strength shows you that you can bend without breaking. You can face the unknown and still continue walking, even if it's one slow step at a time. Strength is not rigid, it is flexible. It doesn't demand perfection, it asks for persistence. The fact that you keep going, no matter how heavy the feeling, proves that you have a strength more powerful than any temporary storm inside your mind. Your strength also shines in your ability to find meaning in difficult experiences. Many people who have lived through anxiety discover compassion for others that they never had before. They begin to see the silent struggles in the eyes of strangers. They become softer with friends, kinder with family, more patient with themselves. This transformation is not weakness, it is one of the strongest responses a human being can have. To turn your pain into understanding, to turn your struggle into empathy, is a mark of true inner power. Think too about the patience you've built. Patience is not passive, it is active strength. To sit with discomfort and still choose not to run, to breathe through the heaviness without demanding instant relief, requires a strength greater than most people realize. Anxiety urges urgency. It screams that you must escape immediately, but patience whispers that you can wait, you can endure, and you can let the wave pass without letting it define you. That whisper is a force that grows louder the more you practice it. And perhaps the greatest strength is the simple decision to begin again. Every time you stumble, every time you feel like you failed, every time you believe you're back at zero, yet still choose to rise the next day, that decision is strength. Anxiety wants you to measure yourself by perfection. Strength measures itself by persistence. It knows that one step forward after falling is more powerful than 100 steps taken without struggle. This kind of strength doesn't always feel like strength. Sometimes it feels like exhaustion. Sometimes it feels like weakness. But in reality, the presence of those feelings only proves the battle you are fighting and still choosing to fight. True strength is not a shining armor that never cracks. It is the scarred skin that keeps healing. It is the tired heart that still beats. It is the weary soul that still whispers, "I will try again." When you start to see yourself this way, you begin to realize that anxiety has never actually been proof of your weakness. It has always been the stage on which your strength is revealed. The world may never see the battles you fight in silence, but that doesn't make them less real, and it doesn't make you less strong. The very fact that you carry invisible battles while still showing up for life is a quiet heroism of its own. This recognition matters because once you see yourself as strong, anxiety begins to lose one of its greatest weapons, the lie that you are powerless. You are not powerless. You never were. The proof of your power is not found in a life without fear, but in the way you keep choosing to live despite fear. The proof is in your persistence, your patience, your compassion, and your decision to keep trying. That is what makes you unshakable. And as you begin to trust this truth, you start to realize that every anxious thought, every restless night, every trembling moment has only added to the depth of your strength. They have carved wisdom into your character, they have shaped resilience into your spirit, and they have trained you to see that nothing, not even anxiety, can take away the core of who you are. That core is strong, that core is steady, that core is unbreakable. And once you begin to see that unbreakable part of yourself, the next step is to learn how to strengthen it day by day through simple, practical actions. These actions may not look extraordinary on the surface, but they are powerful because they shift your focus from helplessness to choice. Anxiety thrives when you feel powerless. It shrinks when you remind yourself that you always have something you can do. One of the most effective steps is to return to your breath. Breathing seems too simple, too ordinary, yet it holds a quiet power. When you focus on the rhythm of your breath, you are reminding your body and mind that you are safe in this moment. A slow inhale followed by a steady exhale sends a signal of calm, not just to your thoughts, but to your entire nervous system. Practicing this consistently helps you create a pause between the rising wave of anxiety and your response to it. That pause is where your power lives. Another step is to bring yourself back to the present. Anxiety often pulls you into the future with endless what-ifs, or drags you back into the past with relentless "why did I?" The present, however, is where peace waits for you. By focusing on a small, immediate task, washing a dish, writing a single sentence, noticing the details of the room you're in, you train your mind to return to the here and now. Each time you do this, you are teaching yourself that safety and clarity exist in the present, not in the illusions of what might happen or what has already passed. A third step is to give your thoughts names instead of identities. When anxiety floods your mind with worry, it's easy to believe that those thoughts are who you are. But by labeling them, "this is fear," "this is doubt," "this is a worry," you create distance. You shift from being consumed by the thought to becoming the observer of the thought. Observers have choice. They can decide whether to engage or to let go. This simple shift takes practice, but over time, it builds the awareness that you are always more than what crosses your mind. Equally important is the practice of gentle self-talk. The voice of anxiety is harsh, critical, and relentless. To counter it, you must learn to speak to yourself with compassion. Simple phrases like, I am doing my best, or this moment will pass, or I deserve peace may feel small, but they create an entirely new inner dialogue. Over time, this dialogue becomes louder than the voice of fear. It becomes the anchor you can return to when the storm of anxiety rises. Rest is another practical step often overlooked. Anxiety convinces you that you must keep moving, keep worrying, keep preparing. But allowing yourself permission to rest, whether it's a short nap, a walk outside, or simply sitting in silence, teaches your mind and body that they do not have to stay in constant fight mode. Rest is not laziness, it is recovery. It is the ground from which your strength continues to grow. Connection is also key. Anxiety thrives in isolation, convincing you that no one could possibly understand what you feel. Yet when you reach out to a trusted friend, a loved one, or even a support community, you break that illusion. Speaking your fears out loud often reduces their weight. Hearing someone say, "I understand," or even, "I am here," reminds you that you are not alone in this journey. Human connection is a practical step as much as it is an emotional one, because it interrupts the cycle of isolation where anxiety often hides. Another powerful step is to track your progress, no matter how small. Write down the days you faced anxiety and still got out of bed. Record the moments when you made it through a difficult conversation or managed to calm yourself with breathing. These records become proof of your strength on the days you forget it. They serve as reminders that progress is happening, even if it feels slow. Every note of victory, no matter how small, is evidence that you are moving forward. Finally, one of the most transformative steps is practicing acceptance. This doesn't mean you welcome anxiety with joy or pretend it doesn't hurt. It means acknowledging its presence without letting it dictate your identity. Acceptance says, "I see this feeling, I know it's here, but I also know it will pass." This approach removes the extra layer of resistance that often makes anxiety feel heavier. Instead of battling against it endlessly, you allow it to come and go without letting it define your story. When you put these steps together, breathing, focusing on the present, naming your thoughts, practicing self-talk, resting, connecting, tracking progress, and acceptance, you build a toolkit. This toolkit does not erase anxiety completely, but it equips you to handle it. It reminds you that you are not helpless. It gives you practical ways to show up for yourself, moment after moment. And the more you use these tools, the more confident you become in your ability to navigate the challenges anxiety brings. These steps may seem small at first, but small steps repeated daily lead to transformation. Each one creates space for calm where chaos used to live. Each one adds to the strength you discovered in yourself. And each one reminds you that while anxiety may visit, it does not have to stay. Your life is bigger than your fear, and your choices are stronger than your doubts. With each step, you take back control, not by force, but by awareness, compassion, and persistence. And in that persistence, you prove again and again that you are capable of living free, even in the presence of anxiety. And when you begin to recognize this freedom, however small it feels in the beginning, you realize that your journey is not about eliminating every trace of fear. It is about building a life that anxiety cannot control. That realization is the foundation of lasting change. It allows you to stop measuring progress by the absence of symptoms and start measuring it by the presence of courage. Courage is not the loud declaration that you are unafraid. Courage is the quiet decision to keep showing up, to keep trying, to keep choosing life, even on the days when anxiety feels overwhelming. Every time you choose courage, you write a new sentence in your story, one that is stronger than the voice of fear. And as you write this story, piece by piece, it becomes clear that you are not the person anxiety once told you you were. You are becoming someone new, someone who carries wisdom, resilience, and clarity born from the struggle itself. This is why it's so important to remember that healing is not linear. There will be days when you feel strong and days when you feel fragile. There will be mornings when you wake up with peace and nights when worry returns without warning. None of these moments erase the progress you have made. Progress is not destroyed by a single setback. True growth is measured over time, in the countless ways you continue to rise again after each fall. Every time you rise, you deepen the evidence that you are stronger than what tries to pull you down. And the truth is, you do not have to wait for some distant future to feel the benefits of this growth. The transformation is happening right now, in the very act of listening, learning, and choosing to face yourself with honesty. Even in the moments when you feel lost, the fact that you are still searching is proof that hope has never left you. That hope is the thread that carries you forward, and the more you hold on to it, the more it expands into faith, not blind faith, that everything will be easy, but steady faith that you can endure, you can adapt, and you can thrive. So as you step forward from this moment, carry with you the understanding that you are not defined by anxiety. It may be part of your experience, but it is not the whole of your existence. You are defined by your choices, by your persistence, by your willingness to live with openness, despite fear's attempts to close you down. Anxiety is loud, but it is not lasting. It can shake you, but it cannot end you. What defines you is the way you rise, the way you keep breathing, the way you continue to seek peace, even when it feels far away. Let this truth be your reminder. You are allowed to feel what you feel and still move forward. You are allowed to be uncertain and still take steps toward the life you want. You are allowed to stumble and still be worthy of love, healing, and joy. Anxiety does not take these truths away from you. It only makes them harder to see. But now you have seen them again, and once you see them, you cannot forget them. They are yours to carry. And here is the invitation. Choose peace for yourself. Not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. Choose to speak kindly to yourself when fear is harsh. Choose to pause and breathe when worry races ahead. Choose to keep standing when the weight feels heavy. Every choice you make in favor of peace builds a foundation that no fear can destroy. This choice is not only for today, it is for every day that follows. It is for the mornings when you wake up uncertain and the nights when your thoughts refuse to quiet. It is for the moments when you doubt yourself and the moments when you surprise yourself with your own strength. Choosing peace is not a one-time event. It is a way of living, and the more you choose it, the more natural it becomes, until one day you realize that anxiety no longer commands your attention the way it once did. So let this be the moment you decide that you will no longer measure yourself by your worst days, but by the courage it takes to keep going. Decide that you will no longer let fear dictate your worth, but instead allow your persistence to define you. Decide that you will no longer wait for someone else to save you, because you already carry the tools to save yourself. And as you make this decision, let it be more than a thought. Let it be a declaration. Say it in your mind, whisper it out loud, write it down where you can see it every day. I choose peace. I choose courage. I choose to keep living, even with anxiety, because I am stronger than my fear. This declaration is not just words, it is a commitment to yourself, a promise that you will not give up on the life you deserve. Every time you repeat it, you strengthen it. Every time you live it, you embody it. And soon, it becomes the truth you carry in your heart, louder than any doubt. So as this message ends, your journey continues. Anxiety may still knock, but you will meet it with strength. Fear may still whisper, but you will answer with courage. Doubt may still linger, but you will stand with persistence. And through it all, you will remember, you are more than your anxiety. You are the one who chooses peace. You are the one who rises. You are the one who will keep walking forward no matter what. And that choice will shape a future brighter than you can imagine. But the decision to choose peace does not end here. It must be renewed each day. This daily renewal is where real transformation happens. It's not in the single moment of inspiration, but in the repeated practice of living with intention. Every morning you open your eyes, you are given the chance to begin again, to remind yourself that no matter what happened yesterday, today can be different. That renewal is the quiet strength that carries you forward. As you move through your days, there will be times when you slip back into old patterns. The thoughts will return, the worries will rise, and you may even feel as though all your progress has disappeared. But remember this, progress is never erased by a setback. What you have learned, what you have practiced, what you have endured, all of it remains within you, waiting to be used again. A single difficult moment cannot undo years of resilience. In fact, it is in those moments of difficulty that your resilience proves its value. This is why patience is vital. The journey with anxiety is not a sprint, but an ongoing process. Some days will feel heavy, others lighter, but each day is part of the same path. Patience allows you to accept the fluctuations without judgment. It allows you to stop labeling yourself as broken on hard days and instead see those days as opportunities to strengthen your practice. With patience, you stop demanding perfection and start allowing progress to unfold at its natural pace. Patience also gives you room to appreciate small victories. Too often, people dismiss the quiet wins because they don't look dramatic. But getting out of bed when you wanted to stay hidden, attending a meeting when you felt nervous, or simply sitting with your feelings instead of running from them, these are victories. They prove that you are living in alignment with courage, even if the steps feel small. Over time, small victories accumulate into lasting change. Another essential part of continuing this journey is awareness. Awareness means catching yourself in the moment and choosing differently. When you notice the spiral of negative thoughts, you can pause and redirect. When you feel tension rising, you can remind yourself to breathe. When you sense doubt creeping in, you can replace it with a gentle affirmation. Awareness is not about controlling every thought. It's about noticing when anxiety tries to take control and deciding to respond with intention instead of reaction. This intentional response is where growth happens. Each time you choose to respond differently, you are building a new pattern in your mind. And the more you practice, the stronger these new patterns become. Eventually, what once felt unnatural begins to feel natural. What once felt impossible begins to feel possible. This is how change takes root, not in sudden leaps, but in steady choices made again and again. It's also important to remember that the journey is not one you have to walk alone. While your strength is within you, connection with others can multiply that strength. Sharing your struggles with people you trust not only lightens your burden, but also reminds you that you are not isolated. You may be surprised how many people carry silent battles of their own. When you open up, you create space for mutual support, and that connection can be one of the most healing steps you take. And even beyond personal connections, you have the opportunity to influence others simply by living your truth. Every time you confront anxiety with persistence, every time you continue forward with courage, you become a source of hope for those around you. Someone may watch you and think, if they can keep going, maybe I can too. Without even realizing it, your personal journey can become a light for others who feel trapped in their own struggle. That impact is immeasurable. The key is to keep reminding yourself that you are more than a person with anxiety. You are a whole being with dreams, talents, and possibilities waiting to unfold. Anxiety may be part of your experience, but it is not the center of your identity. You are capable of joy, capable of growth, capable of creating a life filled with meaning. The more you remind yourself of this truth, the more you open space for those possibilities to grow. So let this moment be more than listening, it must become action. Action doesn't always mean something big, it simply means doing the next right thing for yourself. Maybe it's choosing to take a walk, maybe it's choosing to speak kindly to yourself, maybe it's choosing to rest. Each small action builds momentum, and momentum is what carries you beyond fear. As you take these actions, remember to celebrate your progress. Too often, people only celebrate when they've reached the end of a journey, but the reality is that every step is worth celebrating. Each step is proof of your resilience, proof of your courage, proof of your decision to keep going. Celebration reminds you of how far you've come and keeps you motivated for how far you can still go. And when the days feel long, when the progress feels slow, when the doubt feels heavy, hold on to this truth. You are not alone, you are not powerless, and you are not defined by fear. You are defined by your choices. You are defined by your persistence. You are defined by your courage. And as long as you keep choosing, as long as you keep trying, anxiety will never have the final word. So today, choose peace again. Choose courage again. Choose to rise again. Let these choices shape your life, day by day, until one day you look back and realize that what once felt impossible has become your reality. That is the power you hold. That is the future you are creating. And it begins now, with the decision you make in this very moment. And when you make that decision, you carry it forward not only for yourself, but for every day yet to come. This is the heart of transformation, choosing again and again until the choice becomes who you are. In these moments of renewal, you will notice that anxiety no longer defines the rhythm of your days the way it once did. Yes, it may appear, but it will no longer control the direction of your life. It becomes background noise instead of the main story. And when that shift happens, you begin to taste freedom, not the freedom of a life without struggle, but the freedom of knowing you can rise even within it. That is the essence of true healing. Healing is not a final destination where nothing ever goes wrong again. Healing is learning to meet each day with courage, to carry the lessons of the past without being trapped by them, and to step into the future without being paralyzed by it. Healing is not about never feeling fear again. It is about knowing fear cannot erase who you are becoming. As you live with this understanding, you'll notice subtle changes. The decisions that once felt impossible will become manageable. The situations that once overwhelmed you will begin to feel lighter. The thoughts that once trapped you will no longer hold the same weight. These are the quiet signs of growth. They don't announce themselves with loud victories, but they show up in the way you handle everyday life. And these changes are worth noticing because they remind you that transformation is happening even if it feels slow. Another sign of healing is the way you begin to treat yourself. Anxiety often taught you to be harsh, to expect perfection, to judge yourself quickly. But now, with growth, you begin to soften. You speak to yourself with patience. You allow yourself to rest. You forgive yourself for mistakes. This shift is powerful because the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for everything else. When you build a foundation of compassion, you create the conditions for peace to grow. And as you continue to grow, you may realize something else. Your story matters. The strength you are building, the lessons you are learning, the battles you are overcoming, these are not just for you. They become part of the way you inspire others. Somewhere, someone else is struggling in silence, believing they are weak, believing they are alone. And without even realizing it, your courage becomes a reminder to them that healing is possible. Your persistence becomes a light they can follow. This is the ripple effect of choosing courage. When you heal, you don't just free yourself, you create a pathway for others to begin their own healing. You remind them that while anxiety feels isolating, none of us are truly alone in this struggle. Humanity is connected in the ways we rise, in the ways we endure, and in the ways we rebuild ourselves. And your journey is proof of that connection. So never underestimate the impact of your decision to keep going. It may feel small in the moment, but its reach extends far beyond what you can see. Each time you rise, you strengthen yourself and inspire others. Each time you choose peace, you teach the world that peace is possible. Each time you refuse to give up, you plant hope in someone else's heart. And that is why this journey matters. Not just because you want relief, but because you deserve a life beyond fear. Not just because you want freedom, but because freedom has always been yours to claim. Anxiety may visit, but it does not get to write your story. You are the author of that story, and every day you add a new page filled with resilience, persistence, and courage. So as you move forward from here, carry these truths with you. You are stronger than you realize, braver than you remember, and more capable than you believe. Do not measure yourself by the moments of doubt. Measure yourself by the way you rise in spite of them. Do not see yourself as broken. See yourself as becoming. Do not let fear dictate the shape of your life. Let courage shape it instead. And every time you forget, come back to this moment. Remind yourself that you have already survived so much, endured so much, and learned so much. That history of strength is proof that you can handle what comes next. And as long as you keep choosing peace, as long as you keep choosing courage, your future will continue to open in ways you cannot yet imagine. This is your journey. This is your story. And it is unfolding right now, not tomorrow, not someday, but in this very breath. In this very choice. Keep choosing, keep rising, keep living, because you are not defined by your anxiety, you are defined by the way you overcome it, again and again, until one day you realize that what once held you captive has now become the proof of your unshakable strength. And when this realization sinks in, a new layer of freedom begins to unfold. You no longer see yourself only as someone surviving anxiety. You begin to see yourself as someone creating life beyond it. That shift in identity is one of the most powerful parts of the journey, because the moment you stop seeing yourself as defined by struggle, you open yourself to the possibility of growth, fulfillment, and joy that is larger than the pain you once carried. In this space, your focus changes. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of this feeling? You begin to ask, what kind of life do I want to build, even with this feeling? That change of perspective is transformative. It takes you out of the endless battle with yourself and places you into a position of creation. Anxiety is no longer the center of your attention. It becomes one of many experiences in a much greater story. And that story is written by your choices, not by your fears. One of the first things you'll notice is how possibility starts to return. The activities you avoided before because of worry now feel more approachable. The conversations you once dreaded become opportunities to practice courage. The dreams you pushed aside begin to resurface in your mind. This is not because anxiety has vanished. It's because you are no longer giving it authority over what you pursue. You are learning that life doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It grows from the decisions you make right here, right now. Another change you begin to feel is stability. Where once every wave of anxiety felt like it could knock you down, now you see that you can remain steady even when the feelings come. You don't panic as quickly because you've proven to yourself that you can handle the intensity. You've built practices, breathing, grounding, choosing your thoughts that remind you you're not powerless. Stability does not mean life becomes easy. It means you have discovered balance even when things are not perfect. And that balance brings a quiet confidence into your days. As this confidence grows, so does clarity. Anxiety often clouds judgment, filling the mind with constant what-if scenarios. But the more you practice awareness, the more you realize that not every thought deserves your energy. You begin to separate fear from fact. And in doing so, you open space for clarity. This clarity allows you to make decisions not from panic, but from wisdom. It allows you to move forward not because you are free of fear, but because you trust yourself to face whatever comes. This trust is essential. Trusting yourself is one of the greatest gifts you can develop on this journey. Anxiety may have taught you to doubt your abilities, but every step you take forward rebuilds trust. You begin to see that you are capable of handling hard moments, capable of enduring discomfort, capable of finding peace again. That trust becomes the foundation for everything else, because when you trust yourself, you stop fearing your own mind, and when you stop fearing yourself, anxiety loses much of its power. In these moments of trust and clarity, a deeper sense of purpose often emerges. You begin to understand that your journey is not only about managing anxiety, it is about becoming more fully alive. The lessons you've learned about patience, compassion, persistence, and courage are not wasted. They become part of who you are. They shape the way you live, the way you connect with others, and the way you see the world. Purpose grows not in the absence of struggle, but in the transformation of it. This is why it is so important to continue nurturing yourself. Growth is not something you do once and then forget. It is something you continue to feed with daily choices. Each time you rest when you need it, each time you speak gently to yourself, each time you celebrate progress, you are watering the seeds of healing. Over time, those seeds grow into habits, and those habits shape the miniature way you live. The life you create is not accidental. It is built choice by choice, and every choice matters. And in those choices, you will also find freedom. Freedom does not mean you will never feel anxious again. Freedom means that when anxiety comes, it no longer determines your path. You can feel the fear and still move forward. You can acknowledge the thoughts and still choose peace. You can live fully even when discomfort is present. That is freedom, the freedom to keep walking, keep growing, keep living without waiting for fear to disappear. So as you continue forward, hold on to this truth. Your life is more than your struggle. You are more than your worry. You are more than your fear. You are capable of building something beautiful even here, even now. And every step you take toward that vision is a declaration that anxiety does not control you. You control the story you are writing. And now, the invitation remains the same. Choose. Choose to keep going. Choose to trust yourself. Choose to build the life you want. Do not wait for fear to leave before you begin. Begin now, and let fear adjust to your strength. Begin now, and let your persistence outlast the doubt. Begin now, because your life is too valuable to be delayed by worry. This is your moment, and it continues into every moment that follows. Claim it, live it, and let your story be one of courage, persistence, and unshakable choice. And as you continue writing this story, something remarkable begins to unfold. You start to notice that the small decisions you make every day slowly accumulate into a way of living. They stop being isolated acts of courage and begin forming the very foundation of who you are. This is the stage where growth becomes integrated, not just something you practice when anxiety is loud, but something you embody in the quiet rhythm of daily life. Integration is the point where healing shifts from effort to identity. In the early days, you had to remind yourself again and again to breathe, to reframe, to show compassion. Now, those actions begin to flow more naturally. They no longer feel like strategies. They feel like part of you. This is progress in its truest form, not perfection, not the absence of challenge, but the ability to live more freely without constantly battling yourself. And this integration is what transforms anxiety from being the center of your life into just one aspect of it. You begin to build routines that ground you, morning rituals that set your tone for the day, evening practices that allow you to release tension before rest, conversations where you speak your truth instead of hiding it, choices that reflect self-respect instead of self-doubt. All of these things may seem small, but they are the bricks that build stability. You also begin to notice that your perspective on struggle itself changes. Where you once saw it only as a burden, now you see it as part of the process of becoming stronger. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and instead ask, "What can I learn from this?" That shift in perspective doesn't erase the difficulty, but it gives meaning to the journey. And meaning is what keeps you moving when the path feels long. Clarity grows deeper here as well. When anxious thoughts rise, you notice them quicker. You recognize patterns that used to trap you. You know the difference between an irrational fear and a genuine signal. This awareness allows you to respond wisely, without being swept away by every thought. It's not that you never feel the intensity again, it's that you no longer mistake the intensity for truth. That ability to separate feeling from fact is one of the strongest signs of inner growth. As this clarity builds, so does confidence. You no longer question every step you take. You no longer doubt every decision you make. Confidence doesn't mean you never feel uncertainty. It means you trust yourself to navigate uncertainty without falling apart. It means you can take risks, try new things, and step into opportunities without letting anxiety silence you. Confidence is not arrogance. It is a quiet self-assurance that reminds you that you can handle whatever comes. This confidence opens doors to parts of life you may have avoided before. Friendships deepen because you're no longer afraid to be authentic. Opportunities expand because you're no longer held back by constant hesitation. Creativity flows because you're no longer silencing your own voice. These changes are not sudden, they grow slowly, built from the daily practice of choosing courage over fear. But once they arrive, they transform the way you experience the world. And as your world expands, your sense of purpose deepens too. You begin to understand that everything you've gone through has prepared you for more than survival. It has prepared you for contribution. The wisdom you've gained is not wasted, it can be shared. Whether through kindness to a stranger, encouragement to a friend, or even by living as an example to those watching, your journey creates ripples beyond yourself. Purpose is born when you realize that your healing is not only for you, it's for everyone who crosses your path. But purpose is not only about others, it is also about you reclaiming your right to live fully. Anxiety may have once stolen your energy, your attention, your hope. Now, as you integrate healing, you reclaim those things piece by piece. You begin to dream again. You begin to plan again. You begin to look forward instead of only looking back. This shift is vital because it reminds you that your future is not limited by your past. It is shaped by the choices you are making today. And so, each day becomes an opportunity to practice peace, an opportunity to strengthen trust, an opportunity to continue building the life you want. Not every day will feel extraordinary, but ordinary days are where transformation takes root. It's in the consistent, everyday choices that healing becomes permanent. It's in the quiet hours of living that strength becomes unshakable. So, as you walk forward, remind yourself that integration is not the end, it is the continuation of growth. There will still be challenges, there will still be moments of fear, but those moments no longer define you. You are defined by persistence. You are defined by the way you live in alignment with the truths you've discovered. And that alignment creates a peace that cannot be taken away. This is the gift of the journey, not that life becomes easy, but that you become steady. Not that fear disappears, but that fear no longer controls you. Not that you never struggle, but that struggle no longer robs you of your worth. This is the strength you've built, the identity you've claimed, the life you are now creating. And with every step, you prove to yourself again that anxiety may be part of your story, but it is not the author of it. You are.